Welcome everyone, and good morning from Switzerland, from the Broncolor headquarters studio. My name is Urs Rechio, and today with us from Great Britain is Jonny Wilson. Jonny, thank you very much for joining us this morning, for sharing your experience. And just to start, can you give us some coordinates, please? Where are you based? What are you doing?
Yeah, sure. So I'm based in Leeds, which is towards the north of England. I'm currently a product photographer, wanting to specialize in watches and jewelry. But right now, I kind of just shoot things that I enjoy shooting if it comes along. I'm getting to the point where I can start to be a bit more pick and choosy with which projects I take on, which is quite nice. And also, you just kind of find yourself being taken down a route that you might not be expected to go on, but you just find you enjoy it and you carry on doing it. So, yes.
Okay. Going down the route, how did you start the route? How did you find the entrance? How did you start with photography?
Yeah, so I still have no idea why, but when I was 11,
Okay.
I asked for a camera for my 12th birthday. I don't know why, but there was just something obviously calling to me with it. My parents were very generous and got me a Nikon and gave it to me a month early so I could go on holiday with them, obviously, to America. And all I remember of that holiday is running around California for 3 weeks with my camera in my hands constantly. And I just fell in love with it in those 3 weeks. And I just, all the way through school, I just incorporated photography into anything I could do. I studied graphics at the time, and I always made the graphics project a photography project. Yeah, so I just kind of grew up with it really from a very young age.
Okay.
It took me quite a while to realize that, hang on, I could actually make this a career. And I ended up taking a gap year because I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. But I went to a couple of universities to have a look around their facilities. And when I went into one of the studios, it's my first time in a photography studio, and I was just like, oh, this is where I need to be. And it just all clicked for me. So I ended up applying to a couple of universities, one of which was Birmingham City University, which is where I went to. They had incredible facilities, which was one of the main reasons I went. I felt they would push me in a way that other universities hadn't during the interviews. And the course itself was quite open at the start in terms of you didn't need to necessarily know which area of photography you wanted to be in. You could just figure it out. And with the projects they would assign you, you kind of think, okay, well, I thought I wanted to be a fashion photographer, but it's not quite there for me, or a documentary photographer or anything like this. And I just ended up living in the studio. Product photography was what made sense to me the most in terms of lighting. And
during the education in the university, did you have to specialize later on? So let's say after 1 year seeing all different fields of photography, did you have to decide, I want to go for product photography, I want to do the fashion thing, street photography, or was it open until the very end?
It was open until the very end. The projects we were set became more and more open to interpretation, and you could take the project in any direction you wanted it to. I just happened to always make it a product-based project. There were a few people, I think, that kind of changed direction towards the end. So they might have been doing, I don't know, documentary, and then decided for the last project they might have wanted to do a product thing or a landscape thing. Or I kind of feel that a lot of people at that point knew which one they wanted to do, and they didn't. Not many people ended up changing kind of the area that they've been practicing for 2 or 3 years.
Okay, good. You just mentioned that you got your first camera when you were 11 for your 12th birthday. I don't have an idea how old you are, so let me ask indirectly, was this a digital camera or was this an analog camera?
No, it was digital. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm 29.
Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah, so funny enough, I picked up film photography later on, as I find film photography an amazing release for me in terms of creativity, because all my work is usually so heavily edited and well lit, and everything takes time. And when I'm out and about with a film camera, I just feel like it's a hobby again to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep film photography as my hobby side.
Okay.
And then any photos that I do with it. Yeah, I do it sometimes.
With just for personal curiosity, with 35 millimeters, medium format, large format, your analog photography.
I have 35 on a medium format. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay. Very good.
I'm lucky with the cameras I have.
Right. So you finished the university in 2018, when I'm right?
Yeah.
And from there on, you established your businesses. We will talk about the business part. I think this is very, very interesting because for some special reasons, we will talk about this later on, you kind of had to start your business twice.
Pretty much, yeah.
But you already mentioned that you are into product photography, that you really do it highly edited, that you light well. So can we see some of your photographs?
Yeah.
This
so
would be, of course, now
I
the
will
moment.
mention briefly how I started.
Yes, please.
The way I've laid things out. So during my first year, my third year of university, I kind of got a bit bored of jumping through the hoops of each of the projects, because each project laid out the same, and it became a bit monotonous for me. It seemed a bit too easy. So for my final project at university, it was my project to set up a studio and start my business. So I found a small room, which was not too expensive for me. I was currently working at the studios in the university itself. So in the evenings, they'd get students to look after the facilities. So I'd kind of clean up and everything at the end of the night. So I knew I could afford this. It was like £230 a month. It was very, very doable for me. And I had this studio for quite a few years, actually, with COVID and everything. So this is how I started. And obviously, I'm using like a radiator there as a reflector and some other boxes for the watches. I had nothing. I had 2 lights, some diffusers, and I just kind of made things work in that way. Recently, 3 years ago, I moved to a bigger studio, which is where I'm currently sat right now. So this is when I moved in. It's a lot more busy now. There's a lot more stuff. And this just creativity, the amount of creativity I could produce with this studio is just so much larger than what I could have before, in terms of I can have more complex setups and everything's a bit more intricate, and I can have more kit because I outgrew the other one very quickly. So these are a few setups I've done recently. The one on the left is for a how-to that we did together for your website. And then the right one is a shoot I did. It was a personal shoot, actually, because I had access to the watch, and I just tagged that onto what we did, actually. So the result from the image on the left there was this one. And so this is the kind of work I'm producing currently. I'm hoping to get into a bit more of creativity in terms of like setups and a bit more lifestyle images with watches, which is what I did with this one. So I rented some dive gear. Luckily, my dive qualification from years ago came into handy with that. I didn't realize you'd need one to rent out some dive kit, but yeah, so that's what we did. And then during university as well, I had this concept of doing an exploded watch movement. I used to work. Is this
right? Was this your final exam work, or your masterpiece?
Yeah. So towards the last project where I'd spent all this time opening my studio, I was kind of like, I haven't got any images to show for this, actually. I better do something. So I produced these, and this was a concept that I came up with in my first year of university. I used to work as a jeweler's, selling watches, and a lot of people would ask me why the watches were so expensive. And it was so hard to explain that the movement inside was so much of the value of the watch itself, apart from precious metals and stuff like that when you're dealing with that. Because if you've got the case back, which is metal, and the face, you can't actually see the movement. So I spent about 2.5 years really thinking about, I'd love to be able to do that. I'd love to kind of execute that image one day. And I kind of felt like at this point I had the skills and the kit I needed to be able to do it. So I used my contacts. There were a couple in the jewelry quarter who really helped me out with this. They were an amazing couple who made bespoke watches for people. They're called Struthers Watchmakers. And they gave me these 2 movements. Well, they actually gave me 3, but I messed up one. So, these were the 2 images that I kind of came up with as a final project. And then shortly after university, they commissioned me to do one of their pocket watches that they just made. So it was so kind of validating for me coming out of university and instantly being commissioned to do something that I'd had this idea of for so long. And yeah, this is the end result. So this one wasn't for university. This was one of my first jobs out of university. But this image has won me so much work over the few years I've been working. People see it and they can instantly think, oh, we could do that with our product, or anything like that. So so something we did after was this watch brand. This was a customizable watch brand where you could change any element of the watch itself.
Okay, of course.
To show that you could change it in the order. This was very shortly after university too. And then there was this dermal filler brand who wanted to show their needles exploded. And when they came to me, I was just kind of like, how am I going to do a needle? There's only about 5 elements to it. So it was a bit of a challenge, but we definitely kind of conveyed what they wanted to. And similarly, with the same brand, they wanted to show what came in the boxes. So we were able to show this, it came with 2 needles and the actual product itself.
Are these, how do you approach these explosions?
Yes.
Are these really, are they, all the products, are they in the same setup and maybe you adjust the light, or are these really, do you have the final picture in your head and you shoot them in different angles that they fit in, that they work together in the end?
Yeah. So with these ones, the products are actually suspended. They might have been on some clear acrylic sticks that I've got, or just any kind of pole holding it in place. The watch movements, they're so much more tricky. There is, I'm not saying it's a new technique, because I've seen a lot of like burgers and larger items, but when it's like a screw that's a millimeter big, it's I'd say that's kind of where I came up with an idea. There is a change of perspective with those watch movements. So
exactly.
On a single platform. The pieces were photographed individually, and then I photoshopped them in afterwards. It was on a platform that I could move up and down, that I could then get that change of perspective. So even though it might be, this distance, the base one will have had more of the face showing than the top piece. And I just wanted to get that, otherwise it looked too flat. So, I mean, going back to winning work with that other one, I've just had a client who saw it, and we are just producing some images that I'm really excited to share in a couple of months' time. And with that one, again, I've shot each part individually. It's a super high-res image. It's being blown up quite big. And yeah, it's the same, really. I've just bought a new tripod head, which is the Arca Swiss Cube. And that's really helped me because it's just so precise. So if I wanted to just tilt it up slightly and get it back in the same place, it's doable. So I can get that kind of change of perspective in where the item would actually be in the image.
I fully understand this change of perspective by going up and down with this platform to make it look real and logical in the end. What about the lighting side of this? Do you try to set up a lighting that works for all the different components on different heights, or do you make fine adjustments? I mean, you can't light them differently. It would look fake again.
Exactly. So it was just a one setup with lights. I think there must have been 2 or 3 lights at that point that I used. Having said that, if I was to do it now, I have so much more control with the lighting I used. I didn't have Broncolor at the time. I do now. And there may be elements that when I shoot, I just think it could do with like a little bit more in this area, or something, but it would be a very subtle change, and I don't think it'll be noticeable to the eye.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had a chat a couple of weeks ago. You said something that kind of really resonated with me, and you said that people may not see what you've done in terms of details, but they feel it.
Yep.
And I've just thought about that so much over the past couple of weeks, and it's totally true. I put so much effort into things that people will never see, but
exactly,
they'll feel it when it happens. So yes. So if was to do it again, there may be different changes with the watch movement here and there, but it'd be very subtle, and it would be in a way that I could go back to the original lighting for the next piece that I photograph.
Okay, cool.
So some other projects I've done since, I photographed some of these golf clubs, which they are like these handmade golf clubs in Japan, and they were stunning. I don't play golf currently, but I could appreciate how beautiful these were. So this came from the fact that I actually photographed watches. Someone didn't quite believe that I'd be able to photograph a chrome ball, basically. And I was like, hang on, I've done watches before. It's a very similar process. I can position this and light it in the same way. So this job came from photographing watches. And then these are some bike pedals for like a pedal bike, but they are, and it's an insane brand. I love them so much. So these are the guys I've been working with recently. Yeah, they're just manufactured to such a high quality, and shooting with the lighting I have and the camera I have, it kind of really picks up all the details that they have in their manufacturing. So yes, so yeah, that's
very cool, beautiful.
We've done some skincare items recently with I've worked with a stylist called Charlotte, who's been amazing. Definitely recommend working with a stylist. She's it just changed the way I photographed, and again, it's noticeable that someone professional has come in and positioned everything in a way that I wouldn't have ever thought of doing. And this one too. This is from the same shoot. We kind of had a triptych of images from the day.
Is the stylist from the client, or is the stylist hired by you?
No, she was. She's just a local stylist to me.
Okay.
I photographed these products ages ago, and they never got picked up. And I found them, and I was just like, I messaged them, can I just use them for a personal shoot it one day? Because I've got a stylist and we want to collaborate together. So this was personal work, but it was lovely to work on. Actually, it was really nice.
Nice.
And then more recently, I've been doing some work with Bramont, who's a British watch brand. So I did a shoot for them last year, and then from that shoot, I bought the Pico light system. Because I knew that in the future I'd need them, and then this year they asked if I could do a teaser image of what was coming. So this is using 3 Pico lights, and so 2 with Fresnels on the back left and on the right, and then the spot attachment, projection attachment, just on the little tag there, which is from a ejection sheet. So
very cool. Yes. We'll talk about the lighting a little bit later on. You already mentioned the Pico lights, but just coming in, there is a question from Arild, from a friend of Norway. He's asking if we go back 1 or 2 slides to the golf club thing. Oh,
there we go.
Do you light the golf thing in sections and bring them together in Photoshop? Let's say like most car photography is done, or is this actually all? You press the button and it looks like that.
So this one is all on photo. I didn't actually have time to Photoshop everything together in terms of different elements. I had a lot of images. It was just coming out of COVID, so I couldn't really choose back then my projects. And I think I had like 100 golf clubs to get through. So there wasn't time to piece things together. So this was just as it was. I focus stacked it still.
Obviously.
The way I lit it this was how it was. So there'll be retouching. There's things I took out, but that's just the way I lit it. So
Okay,
I
fantastic.
use scrims. I've got some here.
Yeah.
I don't use fabric scrims because I shoot with honeycomb grids and Fresnels now. And if you're shooting with something so much of a spot, it kind of, you get like a star effect with the way the stick has been. So I'm sure you know that, but
so these are acrylic diffusers?
Yes,
these are hard acrylic diffusers.
I have got a bit of acrylic, but these are leaf filters.
Okay.
Yeah, just the diffusion paper, which has been incredible. It's definitely worth the purchase, and you get a lot of it in the roll. So you can make scrims, or I've got. I started off just by dangling it down, hanging it, but I think you get like 8 meters in a roll. So you've got a lot of wasted roll there. So I actually got a PVC pipe and cut that and made another roll for myself, so then I could have 2 on each side. Yes, there's that. There's also a question about the exploded components. So with a lot of stuff, there's with this one, for example, I just had a stick, like a wooden stick that I put the golf clubs on. Okay. Sometimes very simple. With I kind of feel like with the exploded movements, there's a secret there that I don't necessarily want to give away. I use lots of blue tack. I'll say that.
Okay.
Good. A lot of stuff is blue tack. I use wires sometimes for things. I personally find fishing wire an absolute pain. It takes more time than it's worth, and there's always another way to do it. So I don't usually use fishing wire that often. But yeah, I it's just the way I photoshopped it as well. So I cut it out with a pen, and then it was in the position it needed to be pretty much when I cut it all out and put it in one file. I just lined things up then and positioned them where they needed to be for a final image.
I think that's absolutely fair. Just we had a pre-talk about this interview, and I gave Jonny obviously the option that all the questions are coming in unfiltered, but if it goes too far into the details as well, sometimes we don't want to talk too much about pricing of our photography. So we just discuss the pictures, and as you did it right now, if you say it's going too deep in my personal secrets, you're already sharing a lot with us. Thank you for that. But absolutely fine.
No, it's fine. It's just
not to explain the very last secret.
Yeah, with the watch movements, I haven't found another photographer that's done it, and there was one, but it wasn't great. Everything I've seen is renders, so I haven't ever seen another photographer do a watch movement. So I still hold the secrets. There aren't many, but the way I do it, I don't tell many people.
Okay.
So yes.
I think that's fair. Yes.
And then this was a final image of the previous the teaser, so it's the same.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And this was used in Geneva recently at Watches and Wonders on the side of Bramont stand, which was an incredible moment for me. So the one on the left is mine as well, but it was just easy to show the one.
It's always the best moment when you see your photographs, your tiny moving things millimeter-wise, and then you have a 2 square meters photograph hanging somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the moment for me. So just being able to see, because for me, I don't see my images in print often, and if they do, it's in a book, and it doesn't have the same impact as something as big as that. So it's kind of like the first time I'd see my image being used on a commercial scale at such a size, and it actually meant so much to me. It's difficult to explain. So yeah, very proud moment for me. So
very, very cool. So super nice work. Thank you very much. We'll dive a little bit more into lighting issues later on. But as mentioned before, let's talk a little bit about the business side. You're still young. You're under 30. And maybe you have some hints for us, not for us, but for young photographers, because I'm definitely not a young photographer anymore. Because you started your career twice. You have you finished university in 2018, so you started up with a career, and then 2 years later, COVID hit.
correct.
Definitely a change in your career, and you set it up again.
Yes.
Obviously twice successful. So what did you learn from the first career start, and where have you been too naive, and what did you improve on the second one? How can we start a career, let's say, especially in product photography?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned, when I was in my final year of university, I got that studio space, and part of it was that I wanted to get a few clients that would be regular clients. I was focusing on watch brands at the time, kind of like I called them Instagram brands at the time, because they were kind of like very much pushing their watches on Instagram. They weren't particularly like always amazing quality, and that was where I started. But I've always been tenacious with photography. I don't annoy people, but I don't take no's to heart too much, and I just move on with stuff. So I always tell people that the way I kind of got going was I made a long list of, I think it was 100 watch brands that I wanted to potentially work with, and I made a note of their website, how to get in touch, and there was a section afterwards saying if they contacted me back or not. I also had a bit where I wrote when I contacted them, because I thought it'd look unprofessional if I sent the same email twice within 2 weeks of each other. So I methodically went down them all, and I'd say 95 didn't reply, but 5 did, and you've then got 5 clients. So I just say to people that don't worry about getting no's or rejected, because it happens to everybody. It happens to me now still, and just ignore those and focus on the 5 clients you've just got yourself. And it is a lot of work. It takes time to sit down and write a slightly personalized email to them, but it's worth it. And if you just get 1 or 2 clients from sending out an email to 50, 100 people, that's all you need to focus on, because that's what's going to pay your bills for the next month or so. So it's a slow process for sure, getting going. Sometimes I still now sometimes offer free shoots just to do like a test shoot for 1 or 2 products. The pedals I showed you before, they were a shoot that I said, I know you don't need a photographer now, but I really want those pedals in my portfolio. So if you could send me some, you can use them, fine. It would be great if you'd be able to just let me borrow a couple for a couple of weeks. They did, and then recently I've just had a big project with them. So it's a very easy way to get into people, because people don't want to always put their trust in someone they don't know, or they don't know what they're going to be getting. It's difficult for them to picture or envision the images that they'll be getting from you. So if you can show them with their products, like, this is what I can do, suddenly the onboarding process is a lot easier, because there's that trust suddenly.
Yeah.
So
sounds a little bit like a drug dealer to me.
I guess so. Yeah.
So the first one is for free.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that, but yes, I guess so. So everything was kind of going well after university. I didn't need to get a full-time job or a part-time job. My studio was running, and I was able to make a living from it, and it was going all right. And then COVID hit, and all my clients either got furloughed or laid off or moved to a different brand, and I lost all my clients. I don't have any of them anymore. So I ended up moving back home for a bit, and then I got a random message from someone on LinkedIn saying, we've got a client wanting a full-time photographer. This is the salary. If you're interested, they'd love to come and talk to you, or you to come and talk to them. And it was about 2 hours away from my home. So it wasn't particularly easy at the start. But I popped down to see them, and I just said, like, look, you don't need a full-time photographer. It's a waste of everybody's time. You just need somebody who can come in on a regular basis and photograph stuff. And we managed to negotiate a deal that worked for me, worked for them. Got me back out of my mum's house. So it worked for my mum too. But so I moved to Nottingham for a year so I could work with them. And then I did actually hand in my notice on that client a couple of years ago. And I said, I've got too much stuff coming in now. This current rate that we discussed doesn't work for me. But if you want to continue working with me, these are my rates. And they've never stopped using me. So that was a way I got a very loyal client of mine, and I'm very much appreciative of them. So that is all e-com though. So I do a lot of e-com photography. I don't push it anywhere. I don't show it on any of my social media or anything like that, but I do quite a lot. And that just allows me to take the time and enjoy the creative jobs I get through. So
exactly. Yeah. Talk about e-commerce. Last time we talked, you gave me some balances regarding the time consumption, but as well regarding the income. There, it's not absolutely balanced. Can you give us an overview on your average week e-commerce compared to advertising photography?
Yeah, I think just as a rough estimate, I'd say I probably spend about 75% of the time doing e-com at the moment, and 25% doing the more creative stuff.
Okay.
Sometimes the e-com does kind of tread into the more creative images. I've got a couple of clients, and the style we've come up with is more creative than e-com, but that's fine. But on the income side of things, I'd say it's about 50-50. So the creative stuff is obviously more technical. There's more of a value to it, and I can charge accordingly for that. So yes, we've got a question as well about focus stacking. So I don't focus stack with e-com usually. I did with Bramont recently because it needed it. So the images I produced were used for their e-com images as well as some more creative stuff. And I use a Phase 1 IQ 150, and I don't have a tilt shift yet. I kind of wish I did, but I've just got the 120 macro with that, and I focus stack pretty much everything I do with that. And it just gives it that little extra look. So even if we pull it back up again, the skincare stuff we did. This is focus stacked. I'd say there's about five images in it, just so that everything from front to back is crystal sharp.
Shooting with Phase 1, obviously you using Capture One as well, and this has the focus stacking already integrated. Are you using this, or do you go the old-fashioned way with Photoshop?
Yeah, no, I do use I use Helicon Focus, which is integrated. You can integrate it through Capture One.
Okay.
I love Photoshop, but I find that it just does not do focus stacking well at all. It misses bits here, there, and everywhere, and you end up trying to fix stuff.
So you don't get these missing bits or these strange textures? You don't get this with your technique?
Yeah, Helicon Focus is the best software I found for focus stacking for sure.
Okay.
If you need to, Photoshop and you have Photoshop, it is free within that. Helicon Focus does have a price, but it's more than worth it for the results you get from it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Something I think we are done here.
We also mentioned about starting twice. So obviously with COVID.
Sorry. We're jumping forward and backward a little bit, but that's good. Yeah.
So the reason I started twice was because of obviously COVID. I had to start again. So my company down in near Nottingham that I work with, they certainly helped and just helped me find my feet. As things were kind of getting going, I had a bit of a momentum with working with somebody again. But I just went through the same process as I did initially. I made a list of people that I wanted to work with, and I started messaging them. When I moved to Leeds, which is where I am now, obviously, I started attending more in-person networking events. So I did go to those quite a lot. I've stopped recently because I've just not got the time. But so I in person, again, if somebody knows you, they're going to trust you more than just a random person that they find online. So definitely get to know people and use LinkedIn. LinkedIn's very similar too, in terms of you can create a community there that are all very focused on your area of work. So creative and stuff like this. It's not all about business and banking and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure it's great for that too, but for me, LinkedIn is just amazing for finding work.
Okay, very nice. Your photography, what we talked about until now is product photography forward and backward. But when I go to your website, there is another section with people photography, and there you had some very interesting insights. Because on the website, it's somewhat more product photography, but still nicely balanced with people photography. But we haven't been talking about this yet. Why?
Yeah. Okay. So when I moved in here, now I had more space. I always wanted to photograph people in here. I've got space for like assistants, client, makeup artists, stylists, the models. There's a toilet, there's a kitchen. It's brilliant for having people here. I also lost a couple of jobs in the past with jewelry brands because they wanted the e-com photography done and campaign images with people, and they didn't trust that I could photograph people. So when I moved here, I did have a couple of days photographing people, or more than a couple of days, but I kind of built up a bit of a portfolio there. I'm not saying I'm amazing at it, but it was just enough to have there for if ever a client wanted to come and say, can you photograph a necklace on somebody's neck, for example? I'd be able to say, yeah, here's my portfolio. You can see it here. Having said that, since I've done it, no one's asked me for it. So I may take it off my website soon, just to have the focus on product, but I might have it as an area you can access if somebody really needed to see it. So that's why it was also just nice, because as a product photographer, it does actually kind of get a bit lonely at times. I don't mind that. But, I get sent the products, I work by myself, I go home, I edit there by myself. It's just all by me. So to have people in the studio is always really nice for me. And if the product client needs to come on site, I love it. But shooting people is the easiest way to get people in here at the start.
Yeah.
So,
okay, so this already answered one of the questions that is on our list for later on a little bit. So you're most of the time you are alone in the studio, maybe with a client, but no freelance, no employees. Stylist you mentioned once in a while, but basically it's a Jonny Wilson one-man show, right?
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, currently. I would love to work with more editors. I'd love to get to the point where I can focus more on the photography side of stuff and pass the editing on to someone else. I don't mind editing. I wouldn't say I'm too bad at it. I don't want to sound too big-headed on it, but I'd say I'm better than average in my area. And I just focus on producing the best work I can. I also find that some of the clients that I work with enjoy having me be their sole contact with a project. So if they send me a confidential product, it's just staying with me. They know that the images aren't going to be going to somebody else somewhere that they don't know. It keeps NDAs down, and obviously leaks would be easier to keep tight within the brand. So I know people do appreciate it, the fact that I can edit stuff, but it would be great to have a team one day that I could pass that on to.
You're always mentioning, let's say, the end client to be your client. So there are not a lot of agencies in between, advertising agencies?
I would like to work more with agencies and just an agent for me. I'd love to have an agent. Yep. But it's just currently, it's me and the client mainly. There is occasionally an agency that got in touch with me, and I've got some work through them, but no, it's more direct to the client that I work with. Like I say, it would be great to have an agent. That's definitely on a to-do list soon.
Okay.
Certainly just figure out what I need to do to get there eventually.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, I really hate quoting for stuff. It's not something I was ever particularly taught. So each time I do it, I still feel like I may not be doing it quite the right way, or it's difficult. So I really like somebody just to have that bit taken care of for me.
Okay, very good. Yeah, looking forward to soon. I will see on your website represented by. So I keep an eye on this.
Okay.
Just when we met today online, you mentioned before that you are in Leeds, but this is going to change. So some personal changes on the horizon.
Yes, yeah. So me and my girlfriend are moving back to Cheshire, which is where we're both from. So eventually I'll move my studio over as well, but there's no particular rush with it. I've got clients here that I need this for currently, so I'll just drive over. It's not too far, really.
Okay.
But yeah, literally last week decided to put in an offer for a house. So
very cool. Congratulations. I hope it works out. And do you expect to be in the studio every day? So this 1 hour drive forward and backward, is this a everyday thing, or?
No, it changes really. I mean, I'd say I would be in the studio 1 or 2 days a week max.
Okay.
And the other days I'm at home editing. So I have a desk and a editing setup there that I prefer using. So I just work from home in that sense.
Okay. I see that in the studio now in Leeds, in the background, there's some Broncolor. On the very first picture of the studio, there was no Broncolor things around. So I was shocked seeing that. Jokes aside, when did you start with Broncolor and why?
Yeah, so I at that time in the first slide, I did actually have a Ceros 800L. So I did have one in the background, but yeah, I didn't use it for shoots because I needed more, so the colors were different, and it was a bit hard to use that along with the Bowens ones I had at the time. But I bought Broncolor because I knew that within product photography, I would need the control that the Pico lights offer, and I just remember seeing those in my final year of university and think, oh, they look incredible. It'd be so fun to use, and just the amount of tiny bits of light that I could put onto items, and it would be amazing. So I invested into Broncolor very early on, knowing that eventually I would be in a position where I needed to buy the Pico lights. So I have a pack of 3 800L, 8 Ceros 800s, 1 800L, and 3 Pico lights that I use.
And the Pico lights, they require a power pack. Which pack are you using?
I have the Scoro 1600.
The small Scoro pack, okay. And you combine them? You combine the Ceros and the Scoro with the Pico lights?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So with all my watch stuff at the moment, there's bigger areas that I can cover with the Ceros lights, and then the smaller areas that need just a bit of a pickup in terms of lighting, I use the Pico lights then. So they've genuinely, this isn't an exaggeration, they have genuinely changed the way I photograph items and the way I kind of think about lighting, and the concepts and possibilities are just like kind of just opened up now with them. I know this is a Broncolor thing, but I tell everybody that. And they're amazing. So yeah, I'm very lucky to be able to have them.
Yeah, no, thank you. Of course, yeah, it is a Broncolor thing what you're doing here, but we agreed that it's not an advertising show at all.
Yeah, it's not.
Really just sharing some insights.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, just as we talk about it, just give you the option very quickly to explain why this works, why you can combine, let's say, Ceros, which is a monoblock, and the high-end Scoros, or nowadays Satos power packs, because internally they have the same technique that controls the power outlet. It's not just the voltage variation that if you need a lower power that we only charge a capacitors halfway, because this would result into a yellowish color temperature shift. But with both, even with the just monoblocks, just the simple Ceros, we do cut off the flashes, which means if you reduce the voltage in the capacitors, we cut off the flashes. So nice side result, a side effect, you get very, very short flashes, so even fast movements are completely frozen. And when you reduce the voltage in the capacitors, you lose some blue, but at the end of the flash curve, the flash turns more and more reddish. So if you cut it off there, you can maintain the color very constant from the very high to the very low power. And that's why we can actually easily combine these two lighting systems with not having any disadvantages at all. Yeah. So that's a very important point, very important to understand.
Yeah.
There were just some questions coming in, one regarding the Pico light and the other from Claude as well, directly addressed to you. I leave these questions to you, Jonny, please.
Yeah. So, so I do use the Pico lights through the diffusion material. They are very powerful, so they're more than capable of doing it. I don't use anything on power 10 ever, really. If I need to have a bit more control with the lighting, I can drop the f-stop down from like 11 to 8 or something, and then I can work with it that way. So I've never needed more power with the Pico lights, even when I'm using all three at the same time and you're having to share the power between the three. They're still more than powerful enough to do everything that I need to do. Obviously, as well, if you go beyond the 3 stops, is it 3 stops of power?
It's 3 stops, yes.
It kind of the color isn't optimal at that point, but everything I do is kind of within that. So yeah, it's fine to use through the material. It's not actually that thick. I've got a continuous light coming through it right now for me. And the continuous light really is not that powerful at all, but it's absolutely fine. So Pico lights have no problem. So what's the most difficult part for you in the process of photographing watches? For example, is it the lighting, post-production, quoting, or respecting the deadline? Good question. All of them. I mean, quoting for the job's just like difficult for everybody, I'd say, for me right now. I need somebody to look at my work and tell me exactly how much I should be charging for everything. That'd be my ideal situation, and how to plan it all out and lay it out, and that'd be great. So that's that. I'd say with watches, and I think Claude actually touched on this as well, is when you've got a repeat client, they need the watch being put back in exactly the same place again a year later, or in my case, like 2 months later, because sometimes things aren't ready at the same time, and even for the same project, prototypes might not be. So you need to kind of keep recreating that angle and the lighting from that. So luckily, I'm quite good with lighting. I can remember a lot of stuff in terms of where things were. I can look at photos that I've taken and I'll remember where lights were for it. And if not, then I just take a photo on my phone of everything and all the powers, and make a note later on in a book so I can recreate it at a later date. Post-production is difficult because it takes so much more time than people realize. So part of it as well is client management and managing their expectations. Not with watches, but how people give me products and be like, "Oh, can we have the photos tomorrow?" And I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. I need time to actually like sit down and work on them. So that's difficult. And then the deadline is actually a very difficult part at times, especially when you're trying to juggle other projects throughout a long project. I've not had an issue yet with it, but I could see it really getting away with you. And if you are in my position where I'm editing everything myself, it'll be hard to get everything out at the same time, sometimes with the deadlines that may be put on you, because sometimes they're not the longest, and everything kind of is last minute with product, and things might not be ready for launch in time. So you're working with a prototype, and with prototypes you need to be editing bits and bobs to make it look how it will look when it gets launched, which it's difficult from my perspective as well, because I don't actually know what it looks like. So I might be working off a CAD drawing or an example image from something else. So it can be tricky at times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that. I don't want to dig too deep into the quoting thing. Just one question. Your quotings, are they based on how much you charge per picture or how much time it takes? Do you charge per day, like, let's say, more like fashion photographers, 1 day costs this, or do you say, okay, the finished photograph of this watch costs you whatever?
Yeah. So with e-com stuff, I have a flat rate to start off. which covers things like my studio costs, paying myself. I just know that if I get a product to shoot, everything there's covered. And then on top of that, I charge per image. I found that with e-com photography, sometimes people will send 1 or 2 products and they might not think it's that much. But for me, getting to the studio, setting up, shooting the 2 products, packing down, going home editing, suddenly takes at least half a day. And if it's half a day, it's a full day because you can't fit anything else in really, unless you've got other editing. So for just charging the per images, it kind of like makes that not worthwhile for me whatsoever. So which is why I've got that flat rate now of it starts at this and it goes on from there. With creative stuff, it does change. So if there's a lot of images in a project, it might be per image, which is how I've negotiated some things sometimes. But usually I do try and do it per days. So I work out the amount of time it will take me and we can go from there, which is, it is good because sometimes you'll be shooting something and you'll just, the client will be seeing something on site, like what you're doing, and then they'll put more on and put more on. Oh, can you just do this while you're doing that? And then it's easy to say, okay, well, I need to come in for another day if you want all this and the stuff you asked me for. And it's easy to just work from there. So I do both actually, for both e-com and creative.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for sharing this as well. You told us a lot, so a lot of information, very interesting. Thank you very much. So we have quite a good picture how you got here where you are now. Now we look into the future, maybe as a last question. So where do you want to go? And as it is maybe one of the last questions, this is for all the viewers. It's probably the moment now. If you have remaining questions, something you would like to ask Jonny, please use the chat window on the right side because we are coming to an end soon. But where are you going, Jonny? Where is your photography, your business going?
Yeah, so I mean, I really love watches. I always have from a very young age. I don't know, again, it's like the photography. I don't know why I like them. But then when I worked at the jewelers for 2 years on my gap year and in my first year of uni, I just learned more about them. And I really love just everything about watches. So I personally, it would be great if I could make a career photographing watches and that's it. Having said that, sometimes there are products that come along that I didn't think I'd ever photograph and never considered photographing. When I do, I'm like, oh, actually, this is great. I'm glad I'm doing this also. So, I always say that I'd like to be a watch photographer, and I'd love to be known in the UK as a watch photographer. But I certainly wouldn't put other projects aside just to do that all the time. I think there's a lot of creativity and enjoyment in other areas of product photography. So I don't know really, to be honest. I'm just taking it as it comes, and
probably the best way because like this, it certainly works out, and no doubting about that. Yeah. Talking about the future, there's just a question coming in about AI, obviously. The question that always comes, your ideas about that?
I'm not going to lie, I haven't tried AI at all in any photography or editing or anything like that. I'm not convinced it's quite at the level I need it to be for my work right now. It's a difficult one to answer. People think it's great, and I'm sure it is. In some areas, but if say I'm editing a watch, I just don't feel like it would give me the detail I need right now. So I do everything myself and stay away from AI. Maybe in the future it'd be good for incorporating backgrounds or something like that at some point with my product work, but right now it's not something I'm too focused on, and I've not actually noticed the impact of AI on my work at all.
Very good. Very happy to hear that. Yes.
Yeah. And then there's another one about the marketing platforms. I used to love Instagram when I was younger. It was great. I had quite a following, and then this was before you could have two accounts at one time, and I deleted it to start again. So because I wanted a personal one, so all my friends and stuff, it was a bit more me and them. So I got rid of it, and now I'm kind of like working it up again. But I don't really think it's that good anymore, to be honest. It doesn't. The reach on it isn't great for me, and I know I don't post often, and there's all these elements to it, but it just feels a bit dead to me. And then also, if I post something that I'm really proud of, and then it gets like 20 likes or something, I'm like, oh, did everybody hate that or something? Like, you know. So I don't really focus on Instagram too much. The one I do focus on is LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. It's amazing for getting in touch with people, finding work. People tag you in things, you know, looking for a photographer, and then you have a friend who's tagged you in it, recommending you. People appreciate it when you recommend them and you find them work. And, you know, what goes around comes around. People start looking for you as well. And I'd just say LinkedIn is the one to build up right now for me. Yeah.
Mentioned this before. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So my questions, pretty much all my questions are answered on my list. Did we miss something? Any, let's say, last words from your side?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that's a lot of stuff that we've covered.
We covered a lot. No, certainly we covered a lot. The window with the question is empty. So once more, Jonny, thank you very, very much for all the insights, all the sharing, all the very open communication. Appreciate this very much. I think we profited a lot from this. That's it from my side. Thank you very much, Jonny, once again.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
All the best.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye.